Heads up, because you're in the Hoodwood. I'm Black Dan and KJ Green welcoming you to Sports from the Hoodwood for September 6th, 2019. Coming up this week, is the U.S. not being dominant in the FIBA World Cup a good thing? The shame of UCLA and Tennessee. Our supposed powers have flamed out. We catch up with the NFL playoff predictions that I neglected to do last week. NFL Week 1 pick, the Hoodwood Top 10 in college, Phat Dap head slap, and a final word on the increasing silliness of the high school football fights. All that and as many sport takes as I can fit in an hour. All this week of Sports from the Hoodwood. Are you ready? Let's go.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, unfiltered commentary and insight on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's Hoodwood's hometown hero, KJ Green.
Greetings from the Hoodwood, where the home team is happy to announce that they have drafted 3 quality teams in their 3 fantasy football drafts. But once I'm actually happy about my draft, because usually the day after the draft I'm going, what did they do? Who did they pick? Who are these bums? But for some reason, I lucked into getting Patrick Mahomes as my starting quarterback in all 3 of my leagues. It'd be just my luck he has an absolutely horrible season, and I'd be sitting here in October going, why did they pick Patrick Mahomes? But that'll be discussed at a later date. I'm your man, KJ Green, welcoming you back to the Hoodwood for this first weekend of September 2019. Where did the summer go? I know summer doesn't really officially end until September 22nd, but once Labor Day hits, you're kind of like, summer's over with. You look at football all over the place, high school, college, pros, and we will have a lot of information on the NFL, who I think is going to be going to the playoffs in 2019, and the Week 1 picks, which we will do 15 of the 16 picks because when the show is taping, the Bears and the Packers have already played. So that will be one programming note one time that you will not get the Thursday night pick, which I was going with the Bears, but we'll still see what happens with that. We'll lead off this week with basketball. The FIBA World Cup going on in China. And the U.S. team is... it lacks star power. There are a lot of decent players on the squad. I mean, don't get me wrong. But Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Harrison Barnes, Mason Plumlee, Jason Tatum. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yawn like that. But the players, and it's not taking anything away from these players because they are good, solid players. But when you are missing players like Anthony Davis, James Harden, Kyle Kuzma, Damian Lillard, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, players like that, not to mention players like maybe, I don't know, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, you name the number of players from the U.S. who have more or less said, I'm good. I don't need to play on that team. Even though this team is a qualifier for the Olympics. The winner of this FIBA tournament gets an automatic slot in the Olympic Games in 2020 in Tokyo. Now, Japan doesn't have to really worry. I don't know why they even sent a team. They got absolutely blown out by this U.S. contingent. But as a host team, Japan gets a free pass because they're the host team. But the U.S. team really hasn't quickened the heartbeat. They kind of ease their way to a 19-point win over the Czech Republic. Now, we can remember this is still in group play. And mightily struggled and needed a kind whistle from the refs to escape with a 1-point win over Turkey. Now, you go, Turkey? Really? And we're not talking about the sandwich. We're talking about the Turkish team taking the U.S. team to the limit and then some. And this is a team that won't get out of group play and will finish 1-2 in their group stage. Now, of course, the U.S. then bounced back mightily to whip Japan, a team that knows they're not going anywhere, but will send a contingent as a home country to the Olympics and the basketball tournament. The problem is here now that the U.S. having to win or finish second in the FIBA World Cup to qualify. This is the qualification. The top two teams from each of the Americas in Europe and the top team from Africa, Asia, and Oceania, which is more likely going to be Australia, alongside tournament host Japan, will qualify for the 2020 Summer Olympics. But this U.S. team doesn't quicken the heartbeat. This U.S. team is a bunch of more or less B squads. And the teams that are playing in the FIBA World Cup are dotted with no-joke players. And you're looking at Greece team. And who's on that Greece team? I don't know. Just the dude that was the 2019 NBA Most Valuable Player, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That Spanish team, always dangerous. That team has Ricky Rubio, Marc Gasol, Rudy Fernandez, the grizzled captain. I mean, that's a team that you really don't want to mess with. I mean, these teams are gunning for the U.S., and the U.S. didn't even send a C squad. I mean, don't get me wrong. The U.S. is well coached. Pop is always going to demand a disciplined team and a style of play that is going to be more European than any of the previous USA squads. But the USA squad really didn't need to worry so much about aesthetics and pace of play and the type of game that really would be of a concern because they had so many dominant players. I mean, the U.S. team has won in international competition 45 straight games, dating back to 2006. Now, Team USA is also looking to pull off a FIBA World Cup three-peat, which has never been done in the 69-year history of the event. Now, the U.S. did lose to Australia by 4 on August 24th in Australia before a crowd of about 50,000 in Melbourne, Australia. But looking at that Australian team, maybe we'll say that's a fluke. And again, this isn't the A squad of the U.S. men's basketball. Hell, it isn't even the B squad. Many people think if it is a team that could dethrone the U.S., teams like the dangerous Argentinians, like I said, the Spanish team. We've already talked about Brazil, Greece. Teams like this have better than a puncher's chance to win the whole shooting match. And you have to wonder if the U.S. is even really taking this tournament seriously. The U.S. not being dominant in this tournament is not a bad thing. It helps develop the basketball as a world game on a world stage. No one likes the bully. No one likes it when the Yankees win year after year after year. Someone said rooting for the Yankees is like rooting for U.S. Steel. The same can go with USA basketball. In the nearly 30 years since the U.S. has been allowed to send professional players, they have been nothing short of dominant. Let's just ignore that kind of space where Larry Brown was coaching the team in 2004. We'll ignore that. But aside from that, the U.S. has won the gold medal 92, 96, 2000, 2008, 2012, and 2016. Every year, 6 out of 7 times, they have won the gold medal in the Olympics. And that is the ultimate prize. But getting the squad to Tokyo with a C squad is kind of playing with fire. Is it showing arrogance that the U.S. can take a C squad and win the FIBA World Cup and qualify for the Olympics? Maybe so. But I think having a less than dominant team for the U.S. and a team that has to kind of work to get itself through the group stage, through the quarters and semis to the finals is a good thing. And giving these lesser known players exposure on the national stage makes for a deeper and more talented pool to draw from. Because you're not going to have LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook and these kind of cats to draw from always. There are going to be other players that are going to need to get that exposure. We'll take a first time out, come back and look at the shame of UCLA and Tennessee college football programs. Teams that once were powerhouses now aren't even considered, may not even be considered also ran. Sports from the Hoodwood rolls on after this.
You're tuned into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinions on the world of sports. Here now live in living color, black by popular demand, your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. KJ. And I'm sorry. The beginning of football season, always have the supposed Power 5 and the lesser lights in college football. But college football, to me, is one of the grandest of grand traditions in Americana. I mean, what other sport do you see anywhere from 20 to 90 to 100,000 people getting together in one place for such enjoyment? And there are so many schools, programs that are laid with tradition. I mean, you can go all the way down to FCS teams like Harvard and Yale, and Division 2 squads and Division 3 squads. Division 2 squads like North Dakota State and Division 3 squads like Mount Union. I mean, great traditions and great, excellent football. And you have teams, that are well steeped in tradition. Now you have your Notre Dames, your Alabamas, your Texases, your Georgias, your LSUs that are steeped in tradition and winning. And for more, by and large, for the most part, teams like Tennessee and UCLA have also could count themselves among those elite programs that are nationally judged and nationally followed. Well, with the case with UCLA, and you knew I was going to pick on them. They had the misfortune, I should say, of having to play my alma mater, University of Cincinnati, first game of the season, Thursday night game, under the lights at Nippert Stadium. And I was there at the game, and I ran into a lot of UCLA fans and speaking with them, and they had the mentality of Cincinnati, whatever. I don't even know why we had to come here. Well, it was a home-and-home series between UCLA and Cincinnati. But the way they thought about it and the way this team's fans looked at it was this was a warm-up game. That their real season wouldn't start for 2 weeks until they played Oklahoma. They have another game against San Diego State, their home opener at the Rose Bowl. Last year, a very unheralded Cincinnati team went to Pasadena, the Rose Bowl, and played UCLA, and by and large beat their brains in, winning 26-17. That sparked the Bearcats into an 11-win season. UCLA went 4-8. Chip Kelly was supposed to be the darling that was going to revive UCLA football. Didn't happen last year. UCLA routinely got ran on, routinely got thrown on, routinely got its butt handed to them. So this year, many fans felt that there was going to be some sort of redemption here, that UCLA was going to set things right, get a measure of revenge on Cincinnati, a team they feel that was beneath them. But before 38,032 fans at Nippert Stadium, most of which, a good majority of which, clad in black, loud, rowdy, put a 24-14 win on UCLA. On a sun-splashed evening that turned into a very crisp late summer's eve, UC dominated both sides of the ball. And it was a 24-14 game. The game could have been a lot worse had it not been for two costly turnovers that cost the Bearcats points. They could have blown UCLA out on national TV. The Bearcats led all the way, start to finish. The game was in a little bit of doubt in the third quarter. UCLA cut the game to a 3-point margin. But UC's steady ground attack, led by Michael Warren II, dominated play, dominated the ball. They had more first downs, almost a 2-1 margin on total yards, pass better, 242 to 146, 3 times as much rushing. They ran the ball down UCLA's throat and had the ball nearly 39 minutes. You find me a team that has the ball that long and doesn't win the game, something's wrong. But UCLA was clearly outmatched and was out of their league. As the Bruins trudged off the field, the Nippert Stadium sound system mocked them with playing songs like California Love, California Dreamin'. Anything that had the word California in it, the Nippert Stadium PA was playing it. The fans didn't storm the field after this win. And I've been to games where after what we'll consider a defining win, a signature win, the Nippert Stadium fans stormed the field. They did it when they beat Rutgers in 2006. They did it when they beat Miami 3 years ago. They did it when they beat Wisconsin. Did they do it last Thursday night? Nope. They applauded the team. They applauded the Bearcats. And as UCLA trudged off the field, the fans just looked at UCLA, headed to the visitors' locker room, and just shook their heads. Not even in contempt for them, looking at them and saying, losers, whatever. UCLA has a long way to go to get back to any sort of modicum of respectability. But it could be worse. It could be Tennessee. Tennessee, a team, a tradition. If you've ever been, and I would highly, highly recommend it, if you're into college football and going to venues, you could find very few places that will just raise the hair on the back of your neck, make you just appreciate college football as you can in Knoxville. Knoxville's a beautiful city, it's a college town. You got to get used to two things: that volunteer orange and the song Rocky Top, both of which could drive you to madness. But the volunteer army, the volunteer Navy coming down the Tennessee River and pulling right up to Neyland Stadium, which is, like I said, a beautiful venue and a very loud and intimidating venue, frequently holding over 100,000 people. This time against Georgia State, 85,000 people at Neyland Stadium. The problem was Georgia State didn't play like a 2-10 pushover. They took the fight to the Volunteers and then some. Georgia State came away with a 38-30 win over the Volunteers, and the game wasn't even close. The 38-30 win, the final margin, the Georgia State Panthers led 38-23 at one point in the game, dominating the fourth quarter. The possession, about even. Total yards, about even. Tennessee turned the ball over 3 times, though. Problem. Now, this wasn't Georgia, as in Athens. This wasn't Georgia Tech, which is in Atlanta. This is the other D1 team that's in Atlanta, Georgia State. Georgia State, whose notable alumni include Ludacris and Julia Roberts. Georgia State, you know nothing about their football team. Don't even act like you do, because you know. I had to look up stuff about Georgia State. Georgia State took the fight to Tennessee, and Tennessee could not handle it. I heard rumors that Jeremy Pruitt, who was the head coach of Tennessee, came home after the devastating loss to find for sale signs in his front yard. They don't play when it comes to football in Tennessee. Ask Lane Kiffin. Ask Butch Jones. Ask Derek Dooley. Ask Philip Fulmer. If you're not winning, they'll run you out in Tennessee. The leash may be a little longer for Chip Kelly at UCLA, but the fact remains, 2 of the nation's elite, supposedly, allegedly, elite programs have fallen on hard times. Tennessee was 5-7 last year. Tennessee hasn't really mattered in the SEC in a while. UCLA, when was the last time you remember UCLA really being a contender for the Pac-12 title? I'll wait. If you would have asked the man on the street last year, who had more wins last year, Tennessee or Cincinnati? Most people would get that question wrong. Cincinnati had twice as many wins as Tennessee last year. Now, the caliber of competition may be better for Tennessee, playing in the vaunted SEC. But this, as a program like UCLA, that's fallen on hard times. And there are no easy solutions for either team. Both squads are stuck with their second-year coaches. And both teams don't have a lot of answers. You're not going to find Peyton Manning coming through that door for Tennessee. You're not going to find a player like Troy Aikman coming through the door for UCLA. The times are tough in Westwood and Knoxville, and they're not going to get any better. We will take our second time out of the day, come back with the NFL. Week 1 is on deck. Let's take a look at the games that will be, as well as the playoff predictions. I'll get into those, and then week 1 as Sports from the Hoodwood rolls on after this.
Don't sweat the technique. sweat the technique.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's premier location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinion on the world of sports. Here now, the man with 100% certified fresh take, your host, KJ Green.
On we go in the Hoodwood, and of course, as I've alluded to, NFL is starting its 100th season, and of course, games every week we will have the picks for the games every week. We will get to that in a moment. But last week I said I was going to have the adjusted playoff pick because I had to adjust a couple of things from when I did my Capitals previews over the weeks in August. So let's take a look at who I have going to the playoffs in 2020. In AFC, in the East, I have the Patriots. In the North, I have the Ravens. The South, I have the Texans. I had the Colts before, but now I have the Texans. And out West, I have the Chiefs. The wild card, I have the Browns, who I think will make the playoffs for the first time in 17 years, and the Chargers. In the NFC, I have the Cowboys in the East, the Vikings in the North, the Saints in the South, and the Rams out West, with the wild cards being the Bears and the Eagles. And call me an absolute fool. You're a fool, I say. Nobody asked you. Call me a fool if you want, but for some reason I see a rematch of a Super Bowl 50 years in the making. The Chiefs and the Vikings in Super Bowl 54 in Miami. Don't ask me why, just a gut feeling. And I'm more than likely I'll end up being wrong. But I figure it's my show, I can predict it the way I want to. Let's look at week 1 of the NFL docket. Has it really been 7 months? Wow. Seems just like yesterday that the Pats were winning a snoozer of a Super Bowl over the Rams. 10-3, the lowest scoring Super Bowl in the Super Bowl history. Now here we are again, starting yet another year of picks and predictions. Now I've been making picks and predictions on if I could say it'd be dangerous. I've been making picks and prognostications, try it again. I've been making picks and prognostications on the NFL for almost 20 years now. I used to blog about it on the old Sporting News websites, and I've been sending out emails for just as long. And now my podcast now features them. You can hear the picks, as I've said before, every week that I'll have them from the kickoff to the, I'll just edit this out. The road to, let me start. I've been doing picks and prognostication for over a decade. For over a decade now. I'll edit that out. I used to blog about it on the old Sporting News website and sending out emails for just as long. Now I'm here on my podcast making the picks. Now the road to Miami in the 54th Super Bowl begins here for 32 teams, 31 of which want to take that 7-pound silver chalice that the New England Patriots possess, but we'll eliminate 20 of the teams by January, and by the first weekend of February, we'll be left with 2. That's ways down the road. We have 268 games to look at between now and then. Now here are the first week's Here are the first week's picks for your review, perusal, and approval. Odds are provided by ESPN for comparison and entertainment purposes only. I say that because inevitably I have someone complain that they took the lines that I provided and lost. If you do that, it's on you because I don't pay bookies. And the records that I'm quoting here are the 2018 finals. First game on the docket, I've already worked that as a loss. The 691 Packers from last year take on the Bears at Soldier Field. The fast fact is the NFL has now opened its 100th season with the NFL's oldest and longest running rivalry, with 199 games being played between these two teams. And though you would normally expect the defending champs to start the season, NFL opened its 100th anniversary season with these two ancient rivals who are the bedrock of the NFL's existence. These two teams are about 200 miles away from one another and basically been in each other's throats for over 100 years. The Packers bring Aaron Rodgers and hope to bounce back from an unusually subpar season, which they were able to do 10-3 over the Bears. The Bears do have a ruthless defense led by Khalil Mack and a fast improving offense led by Mitchell Trubisky. Keep your eyes on rookie running back David Montgomery, who will be a shifty speed force in the Bears' backfield. I did not trust the Packers and thought the Bears could grind out enough points for the win. They did not. They only scored 3. So I'm already in an 0-1 hole. Let's hope that I can improve on that with the rest of the picks for week 1. Let's take a look at the game starting on September 9th. First game on the docket, it was the Atlanta Falcons, who finished 7-9 last year, at the Minnesota Vikings, who were 8-7-1 last year. The game's being played at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Vikes are 3.5-point favorites. Fast fact is the Vikings have won the last 3 meetings. And for Atlanta, Julio Jones has his lowest yards per game average against any team when facing the Vikings. He's only averaging 40 yards per game. That is the lowest yards per game average of any team he has faced more than twice. Now, both teams may very well be at a crossroads season here. Both have top-notch offensive talents, yet are both suspect on defense. Matty Ice Ryan is a much better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. That goes without saying. But the defense he faces may be better than the one that Cousins has to deal with. Honestly, this is a toss-up. The Vikes play light years better at home, though they should squeak out a tough win. My pick here are the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans, who were 9-7 last year, taking on the Cleveland Browns, who were 7-8-1 last year at First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Browns are 5.5-point favorites. Fast fact is, since returning to the NFL in 1999, the Browns have only won their home opener 1 time. Now, the weight and expectations have been this high on the Browns in decades. I shit you not, decades. With a ton of new acquisitions to bolster their brash young quarterback in Baker Mayfield, the Browns enter this season as a media darling and a marked team. Facing a Titans team that keeps flying under the radar, the pressure is on for the Browns to have a spectacular start. Something just doesn't feel right here, though. The Browns have a nasty habit of melting under the hot glare of expectations, and I just keep seeing Derrick Henry running roughshod on the Browns defense. And with OBJ as a question mark, that just bodes bad for the Browns. I have Tennessee as my upset of the week. Up next, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who were 10-6 last year, headed to Miami to take on the Dolphins, who were 7-9 last year at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Ravens are 6.5-point favorites. The fast fact here is the Ravens have outscored the Dolphins 78-6 in their last 2 meetings. Now, the Dolphins look like they may be already to fold up the tent and look forward to 2020 as they have traded away a number of promising players. The Ravens are the defending AFC North champs and still have many of the tools that made them a playoff team last year. The Dolphins are just playing bad on both sides of the ball, bar none. Even on the road, the Ravens here are clearly the better team. I have Baltimore, the pick, as my lock of the week. Next up, we have the 6-10 Bills against the 4-12 Jets. Game being played at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Jets are 3-point favorites. Fast fact is New York Jets running back Le'Veon Bell will see his first NFL action since December of 2017 after holding out the entire 2018 season after being labeled the franchise tag by the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets are feeling themselves after a fairly productive offseason, which included acquiring the aforementioned Bell. And now they face a Bills team that, as usual, has a host of questions on both sides of the ball. Though Josh Allen is fairly adept at QB, he has limited tools to work with. I know I'm going to regret this, but for the moment, the Jets have my confidence, and I say at the moment. I'm thinking Bell will be off and cracking from the first snap, and that the Jets will grind the Bills into buffalo meat, so to speak. I know, bad pun, but I think the Jets are the pick here. Pick of the New York Jets. Next up, we have Washington at 7-9 last year, taking on Philadelphia at 9-7. Game being played at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. 1 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Eagles are 8.5-point favorites. Fast facts: the Eagles have won four of the last 4 meetings after losing the last 5. Now, the Eagles still think they are the class in the NFC East. Meanwhile, Washington still has a host of questions, not to mention a burgeoning quarterback controversy. The well-traveled Case Keenum gets the start for the visitors, but how short will his leash be, especially if head coach Jay Gruden starts feeling the heat from upstairs to bring on much heralded rookie Dwayne Haskins. But for the moment, the Eagles are the issue, and though the spread is way higher than I think it should be, I think the home team will have enough to carry the day. The pick is Philadelphia.
Next up, we have the 13-3 Rams at the 7-9 Panthers. Games being played at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. The Rams are 3-point favorites. Fast fact is the Panthers have won the last 3 meetings of the two teams in Charlotte. Now, the Rams are still trying to get over the hangover of a Super Bowl loss, and while they may be the best team in the NFC, that margin is slimming very fast. I never like a West Coast team coming east for an early game. The Panthers have a solid offense with Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey, but that Rams defense with Aaron Donald is a factor you cannot wholly ignore. I'm likely going to regret this, but I think the Rams still a tight one on the East Coast. The pick here is the Los Angeles Rams. Up next, we have the 12-4 Chiefs at the 5-11 Jags. Games being played at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Chiefs are 4-point favorites. Fast fact here is the teams have split 12 overall meetings. Now, the Chiefs are heading into the season with extremely high expectations. They are facing a Jags team that is trying to get an identity
forged by new quarterback Nick Foles. I think that the Chiefs' defense can be suspect at times, but Patrick Mahomes and that high-power offense the Chiefs possess is the great equalizer and can offset that sometimes suspect defense. I think the Chiefs get a good test on the road, but I also think they get the win. The pick here is Kansas City. We'll take a timeout, come back with the late games as well as the Sunday and Monday night games. Games being plural on Monday, as Sports from the Hoodwood continues after this.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, unfiltered commentary and insight on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's Hoodwood's hometown hero, KJ Green.
On we go in the Hoodwood with Week 1 NFL picks. Let's now turn to the late games. First late game we have is the 10-6 Colts against the 12-4 Chargers at Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. If that doesn't make you cringe, I don't know what will. The Chargers are playing their final season before moving into their new Hollywood Park digs next year. The Chargers 6.5-point favorites. The game is being played at 4:05 and be shown on CBS. The Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. The fast fact is, since 2012, AFC South teams are 1-3 on the West Coast. The Colts having that only win. Jacoby Brissett, come on down. Do you really feel bad for this kid? Well, he actually just signed a 2-year, $30 million contract, so he's the only Colts quarterback the Colts can turn to after the sudden shocking retirement of Andrew Luck. Facing a really good Chargers defense is not what Brissett needs to start out. Trying to match up scores with grizzled vet Phillip Rivers and that high-powered Chargers offense, even missing Melvin Gordon III, is not what somebody like Jacoby Brissett needs. That is not the desirable first game a team like that needs. The Chargers are trying to keep pace with the division rival Kansas City Chiefs and really won't have time to trifle with this struggling Colts team. The pick here is the Los Angeles Chargers. Next up, we have the 6-10 Bengals against the 10-6 Seahawks. Game being played at CenturyLink Field in Seattle, 4:05 kickoff on CBS. The Seahawks are 9.5-point favorites. Fast fact is the Seahawks are 14-0 in September home games since 2010. The Bengals are a mess, plain and simple. A lot of the solid players on both sides of the ball are sincerely lacking for the orange and black. Headed to Seattle, where a noisy, raucous crowd will make things even harder. And then you add Jadeveon Clowney to the mix, and you feel really, really, really sorry for rookie head coach Zach Taylor. This game looks like it'll get ugly in a hurry. I won't spend too much time on it. The pick here is Seattle. Next up, we have the 5-11 Giants taking on the 10-6 Cowboys at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. 4:25 kickoff on Fox. The Cowboys are 7-point favorites. Fast fact is both Giants quarterback Eli Manning and Cowboys tight end Jason Witten will be starting their 16th season with their respective clubs, both team records for service. Now, the Pokes are feeling extra froggy after finally getting Zeke Elliott in the fold after signing a super large extension, 5 years, $90 million. Will he be ready to go against the G-Men? Will it really matter? The G-Men are a mess, and the Pokes would like nothing better than to step on their division rivals early. The clock is ticking on Eli Manning, and you're wondering how long it'll be till they will turn to Daniel Jones, who would look very crisp in the preseason. My guess is that this will be the first game, will be the first to start the slide out of the Eli era in Gotham. Nevertheless, the pick is Dallas. Next up, we have the 6-10 Lions against 3-13 Cardinals at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. 4:25 kickoff on Fox. The Lions are 2.5-point favorites. Speaking of service, for the fast fact, the Cards have two of the most senior players in the NFL. Wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald starts his 16th season, and newly acquired Terrell Suggs will start his 17th season. Terrell Suggs having played his college ball at nearby Arizona State. It's likely that the only reason this game is showing this late day is because of the locale. Otherwise, this will be buried on the early slate, showing the suburban Michigan and some other punishable venues in and around the country. This will be Kyler Murray's debut, and it'll be against a quietly solid Lions defense. He will get an early lesson on how to handle a defense from grizzled vet Matt Stafford on the other side of the ball. The Lions are far from world beaters, but I think they have more than enough to outpace the Cards. The pick here is Detroit. Next up, we have the 4-12 49ers against the 5-11 Buccaneers at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. 4:25 kickoff on Fox. It's even line pick for the game. Fast fact, the Bucs are trying to break the NFC's longest playoff drought. Every team in the NFC has made the playoffs since the Bucs last made it in 2007. This is a really puzzling game to be showing late. Both teams were major disappointments last year. The Niners mostly because their big money acquisition Jimmy Garoppolo went down with a bum knee. Jameis Winston may really be on his last best chance to move back into the elite category. Now, if Pappy Arians can't get his mind right, it ain't happening. I still think the Niners have the offensive weaponry to outpace the Bucs on the road. The pick here is San Francisco. The Sunday night game has the 9-6-1 Steelers taking on the 11-5 Pats at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Mass. 8:20 kickoff on NBC. The Patriots are 7-point favorites. Fast fact here, if Tom Brady can start all 16 games for the Patriots this year, he will be the first NFL quarterback to do so at the ripe young age of 42 years. The Pats get the Sunday night game in lieu of the opening night gig as the defending Super Bowl champs, and they host longtime rival Pittsburgh. The Steelers are in a bit of a transition after trading away top receiver Antonio Brown and running back Le'Veon Bell, the latter not playing at all last year. Now, the Pats are defending champs, and as long as the seemingly ageless Tom Brady helms their offense, they will be a team to beat. I just really can't see the Pittsburgh Steelers having enough firepower to beat the Pats in Foxborough on a banner night. Pick here is New England. Turning to the Monday night games, the Texans are 11-5, take on the 13-3 Saints at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. 7:10 kickoff on ESPN. The Saints are 7-point favorites. The fast fact is these teams have only met 4 times in their history, and the home team has won every matchup. Now, this is a fascinating matchup as 2 division winners go head up on the early Monday night game. The Texans look like they might be ready to step into the elite category, making a move even with the departure of Jadeveon Clowney, who was just recently traded to Seattle. The Saints are still steaming over their controversial NFC title game loss and know that this might be their last best chance to go all the way to the Super Bowl under Drew Brees. The loss of Lamar Miller hurts the Texans and puts even more pressure on quarterback Deshaun Watson. I think the Saints win an entertaining shootout, though. The pick here is New Orleans. Finally, the 10:20 game on Monday night, and I will go on record saying is I wish they would do double headers on Monday night and throw away this Thursday night game. Please. Anyway, we have the 6-10 Broncos taking on the 4-12 Raiders at Oakland Coliseum. 10:20 kickoff on ESPN, even money game. The fast fact, the Broncos have won 7. Fast fact here is the Broncos have won the last 7 season openers and own the best record on kickoff weekend at 39-19-1. Now, a pair of very disappointing 2018 teams round out the first week. The Raiders are opening their last season in the East Bay before 2020 move to Vegas. And the Broncos are a long time and despised rival. With new quarterback Joe Flacco, the new look Broncos have the offensive weaponry, but their defense is still very suspect. Thus, Vic Fangio, who was architect of the fearsome Bears defense from last season, has coaching reins. Going against a perpetually grumpy John Gruden, it will be interesting to see what kind of chess match that they will engage in. I think the Raiders, though, even without Antonio Brown, who's been suspended, at home, will have a slight edge. The pick here is Oakland, and there you have it. Last year, I was 178, 87-2 on my picks, 13-4 on my locks, 9-8 on my upsets. I hope to match or improve that total over the coming season. There you have the NFL picks. We'll take our final timeout. Come back with the Hoodwood Hot 5. Actually, it'll just be the top 10 this week. Phat Dap head slap, and the final word from the wood as Sports from the Hoodwood. It's down the home stretch after this.
You're tuned into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest insight and opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours, your host, KJ Green.
Rounding third hit from here in the Hoodwood. My name is KJ Green, and you can catch this podcast on a number of outlets, including iTunes, Play, and YouTube. It's just the audio version. You haven't yet to see my ugly mug on the same side. So figure out a way to get the cameras working at the same time and the graphics, but for now, it's still just audio. Phat Dap of the week we will get to in just a moment, but first, what is soon to be a staple of Sports from the Hoodwood for college football, the initial unveiling of the Hoodwood Top 10. Now, this will be part of the Hoodwood Hot 5, which I will have 5 quick takes on college football, which the 5th take will be my top 10. We'll shuffle them around as I see them and rank them. They're not necessarily the top 10 teams as determined by the coaches poll or the AP poll or the Harris or whatever they determine the BCS with. It's just the teams I think are the top 10 teams in the land. More often than not, they'll mirror what the top 10s are, but sometimes I shake it up. And more often than not, they will not include Notre Dame, a team I despise. So, without further ado, let's look at the initial Hoodwood Hot 5 Top 10 for Week 1. Our top team is Clemson. Number 2 is Alabama. Number 3, Georgia. Number 4, Oklahoma. Number 5 is Louisiana State. Number 6 is Ohio State. Number 7 is Michigan. Number 8, Texas. Number 9, Auburn. And the number 10 team, Central Florida. That's right. Notre Dame is not in my top 10. Will they be in my top 10? I doubt it. Until they play someone other than Little Sisters of the Poor, East Bay University. Brian Kelly won't even schedule Hoodwood University. So I don't want to hear anything about Notre Dame being in my top 10 until they play somebody. Play somebody and beat somebody worth something. Without further ado, let's take a look at the Phat Dap and Head Slap of the Week. The Phat Dap goes to the trolls, which I really don't like trolls on the internet, but this week, they deserve it. The trolls who changed UCLA's Wikipedia page to read University of Cincinnati, Los Angeles, after the football and basketball teams completed a 4-game home-and-home sweep. Now, the basketball team won a nationally televised game in December 2017 at Pauley Pavilion, routing the Bruins 78-65. The football team, as previously mentioned, followed that up with a 26-17 win at the Rose Bowl. Both times, the visiting Bearcats were double-digit underdogs. But the Bearcats proved that the road wins were no fluke by hammering the Bruins in front of a rowdy Fifth Third Arena crowd in December of 2018. And then a stunned national audience, winning by 28. The Bruins would hire the former Cincinnati Hoops coach in the spring, and the Wikipedia page noted that by saying that the University of Cincinnati sent Cronin to their satellite college in Los Angeles. The Bearcats then completed the series sweep with the aforementioned 10-point win over the Bruins in football. The trolls that changed the wiki page got a dig in a classy, funny way. It was a cool one-up on the haughty West Coasters. Now, the head slap of the week go to the New York Jets, who got the boot. Not from their kicker. They just signed new kicker Kare Vedvik, who had recently been cut by the Vikings. But Vedvik was being taken to MetLife Stadium to be shown the stadium and get some practice in on the MetLife Stadium turf, only to find that the goalposts had been taken down and the artificial turf that the Jets play on was replaced by natural grass ahead of a USA-Mexico soccer friendly being played at MetLife Stadium Friday night. Head slap to the Jets, who still get no respect. And now, without much further ado, let's take the final word from the wood. I am a big proponent of high school football. High school football is something that young men in America should play or should experience. Builds team chemistry, builds camaraderie, and a bond for life that young men will have by playing with their classmates and friends. School pride is something that should be something to take pride in. Representing your school, your neighborhood, your colors is something that football games more often than not have. And it's always fun to see fierce rivals meet on the field. But after the games, and sometimes during the games, the rivalry can get a little too intense and fights break out. Something I think is some of the most silliest in the world. Now, locally, there were a number of fights at Friday games in the greater Cincinnati area. Cincinnati Public Schools, Withrow and Woodward, who are big arch rivals, had a number of fights before, during, and after the game at Woodward High School. The police had to escort the Withrow team bus from the school back toward their own school because of a number of fights and harassing people from the Woodward contingent. And the boorish play isn't just limited to people who are in the stands. Roger Bacon, a Cincinnati Catholic school, was awarded a forfeit after a knucklehead, and I do call him a knucklehead, from Dayton Dunbar headbutted a ref. Who headbutts a ref during a game? Dunbar already had 12 penalties. That shows more of a lack of control from a team, from a coaching staff, than institutional control. What things are lacking? Sportsmanship, fair play. And it's not just limited to the greater Cincinnati area. There have been a number of fights before, during, and after games. Many reactionary people say, just take away football, shut it down, take it all away. But that does more harm than good. Punishing good players who will benefit from football, the discipline, the camaraderie, the need to belong. That's a gang in itself, but a good kind of gang. I could count countless young men that more than likely would have been hemmed up in the system had it not been for football. Best example is Bears rookie running back David Montgomery from my old neighborhood. He himself has said, had it not been for football, he might have been in some kind of trouble. Where is he now? A running back for the Chicago Bears. Football isn't the problem. The camaraderie isn't the problem. It's the discipline or lack of therein. Healthy rivalries are good. There's nothing better than playing your rival and beating them or taking a good game from them. But school pride can only go so far, and repping your neighborhood can also go a little too far. Arch rivals have their place. Fighting in the game is something that is just not tolerable. And for some reason, it just seems like there are high school games that feel like there are more and more at stake. And I'm not talking about playoff positioning or potential scholarships. There are people who are betting on these games, betting on high school games. What kind of point is that? What kind of example is that setting? Fights at games, betting on games, high school games, that needs to stop. That is silliness of the highest order. And that is the final word from the Wood. With the music coming up in the background, you know that means that your time in the Hoodwood is just about done, and I thank you again for your visit this week. The email for the show is kjgreen@blackbanditproductions.com. You can send emails on show topics, questions, comments, and criticism. I welcome your correspondence and I try to respond to every email in a timely manner. You can catch this podcast on a number of sites, including iTunes and Google Play. The show site itself is hoodwoodsports.podbean.com, which has a back catalog of previous shows. I'm also on Facebook at Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises. I'm on Twitter as well at KJGreen20 and KJGreenBB, as well as YouTube. So that's that, fellow sports fans. Until next time out in the Hoodwood, I'm KJ Green.
Sports from the Hoodwood
Is a Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises presentation.
of a 551